Capital Region fans have been waiting all year.
That's right, Avidan. Saints and Great Danes are ready for a great game, maybe an unforgettable one.
We'll start things off with the women because they had the first game of the week. The women took the long trip over to Washington to play the Huskies in a contest that ended in a blowout. The Huskies beat the Saints by 43 points. You figured it was going to happen considering the fact that you're down players, and listen to this dialogue from the game, which just shows you how much they know about Siena basketball.
Valencia Fontenelle-Poisson out recovering from injury, and Teresa Sapala is with her Finnish national team.
To be fair, Washington did upload some highlights from Siena, which is what I'm also going to play right now.
Traore with it, guarded by Daniels. The long arm of the law. Gets it up there, but a nice drop step by Traore. 4 minutes left in this quarter. Half cannot come fast enough for the Saints. Jackson three, and there finally she looks up and says, I made one.
Yes, and Nyjah Jackson, great performance from her this game. She actually had the first 3 points of the game and ended up having 21 points in total. Miriam Traore had 7, Nyjah Brown had 6. And the Washington Huskies, meanwhile, were led by Ella Dean, who had 21 points. Chloe Briggs, Hannah Steins, and Delia Daniels, also with double figures. Washington's shots were butter smooth. They managed to make all of their shots, not missing a beat. Siena struggling to do so. Siena did have a second half that was worth their favor. The fourth quarter, they had 5 out of 10 field goal attempts made, and they also went 6 for 7 at the free throw line. Once again, I'll mention this from the last video, but Teresa Sapala is currently playing in Finland right now. She will not be back until the week later. I will also mention from the last video that this was a homecoming for Anaya Hooker, who is from Linwood. Hooker is one of the standout freshmen for Terry Primm. She didn't really have much of a performance this game, unfortunately. However, Zoe Richardson was a freshman that did make some points. Richardson had 3 points. It may not be a lot, but for the New Zealander that is a brand new addition to Terry Primm's staff, I can't wait to see if she'll make some more impact as the season progresses. In my opinion, this was going to happen. I predicted the loss was going to be in effect. I totally predicted that it was also probably not going to be a fun game for the Saints to play. And in my opinion, I think that they probably should have considered a different Big Ten opponent. I mean, there are tons more Big Ten schools closer to Albany, like Rutgers, for example. But whatever, I don't make these schedules up. It's all in the coaching. Unfortunately, things did not get any better for the women. They took a plane all the way over to Pennsylvania after the Washington game to play against the Pennsylvania Quakers. The Saints unfortunately lost by 29 points, with Penn outscoring them and out-rebounding them. It was a homecoming game for Nyjah Brown, who is our player spotlight. Nyjah Brown, the senior from Norristown, had 17 points, which is a season high, as well as 5 boards, 2 assists, and a block. She was also part of the inaugural recruiting class for Jim Jaber, alongside Valencia and also Amina Slimovic of Fairfield, who celebrated her birthday on November 14th. Happy birthday, Amina. One of the major players for the Quakers was also coincidentally the player that beat the Saints last year, Stina Almquist, who had a career-high 27, 9 for 14 shooting from the field. And also Katie Collins, the Ivy League Rookie of the Week, had a 13-point, 11-rebound double-double as well. Another positive for the Saints, however, career high for Ana Conde, the freshman from Spain. She had 8 points. Looking to see what she'll be able to do as the season continues. Maybe she'll be a worthy replacement, and also maybe she'll step it up a bit and help out while the Saints are still shorthanded. It was a very competitive first half as the Saints actually managed to stay with the Quakers throughout most of the beginning. They even had a 17-16 lead entering the second quarter, but then Penn managed to explode towards the end, and it was over for the Saints. Terry Primm also experimented a little bit with the starting lineup at the Washington game. He did not start Nyjah Brown and Esther Terry together, thinking that the two of them would have been able to be worthy of the same position. However, he thought wrong. Terry came off the bench immediately as soon as the Washington game began, and he decided to go once again to have him start at the Penn game. Unfortunately, the Saints' losing streak against Penn continues. The Saints' only win actually happened in Philadelphia in 2001 when they played them and beat them 73-65. Now on to the men, and obviously we're going to talk about the Albany Cup in this one because it did happen, and I do have scores and reports from that. So, without further ado, let's go to the mic'd up segment. Here's Marcus Jackson talking to Nicolette Cash, as well as Brendan Coyle, about his thoughts on the Albany Cup.
How do you guys feel playing this Albany Cup on the same team as opposed to against each other?
I'm excited. I mean, I played with this guy for a long time now, probably about like 3-4 years, so it's my guy. I happen to be on the same side with him again and ready to attack them with my brothers. So
definitely looking forward to it.
Is the only reason you came to Siena was to play with BC again?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
The question is, are the men having fun yet? I think they sure are. The Siena men continuing their winning streak with a win against American University. The Eagles headed over to Albany on November 12th, and the Saints beat them 74-66. Going to our 5 key takeaways. First off, Gerry McNamara is now the first coach in Siena history since John Griffin in 1982 to start the coaching tenure with 3-0 wins. It was a breakout game for Peter Carey, who is a redshirt sophomore center from Massachusetts. Carey was a transfer from Syracuse, and with 16 points, it was Carey's career high. Previously, he only had 4 points over at Syracuse when he was playing there. And after having a few years off due to injuries, Carey has so far exploded. He really explored the center position, 7 for 8 shooting and 6 blocks. The game was not without its challenges, however. At the very beginning, Siena had a great streak running in with their wins, but then eventually Americans started to answer, and at the buzzer during the end of the first half, Wyatt Nasaudis, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, had a game-tying 3-pointer to draw 36 for both teams. Brendan Coyle continuing a solid performance. Coyle had 3 consecutive 3-point shots during the second half, and he also had another 3 free throw contest where he made all 3 buckets.
Coyle open 3. He got it.
It was also the final of 4 games in a series with American. The Saints started the series in 2019 under first-year head coach Carm Massarello. For his next 2 seasons, however, they didn't play a game at all, and then in 2022 they renewed the series at American University, the Saints finishing it up strong. And for our final takeaway, let's continue our talk about Justice Shoats, because he is on a roll. For the first time since the 2022-2023 season, he has given Siena a MAAC Weekly Award. The product from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, is the MAAC Player of the Week for the past week, alongside a player from Iona. The last time Siena had that was when Michael Bear got the award in January of 2023. And while Shoats didn't really have much of a good performance this time, he still had 18 points, which is, again, a game high. Eventually, he got another award, the Oscar Robertson National Player of the Week, one of 5 Division I players nationally by the U.S. Basketball Writers Association to get one. Alongside Jacoby Coles of Grand Canyon, Tyson Dunn of Buffalo, Ty Johnson of UC Davis, and, of course, Ryan Kalkbrenner of Creighton, Justice Shoats is the National Player of the Week listed on the roster. I figured, any improvement was going to be good, but I did not expect the improvement to be this massive. And now I'm really curious to see where Siena is going to land on the MAAC rankings once season play starts. My only criticism of the game, and this is honestly my personal opinion, is that yes, Siena had a great performance against American, but I do think that Gerry McNamara needs to really rotate the bench a bit more. Kyle Winters is on scholarship. I haven't seen much from him. I don't know about Michael Ojo or Braylon Smith, both returners from last year. And also, I want to see more from Gavin Doty, Tajay Jones, and of course, the 7-footer Devin Bradford. You never know. Maybe you'll get someone who's very competitive and you'll want to start him eventually. And speaking of starting, I think at this point you just need to start Justice Shoats. He has done such a great job. How can you not start him, is my question. All right, well, unfortunately, Gerry McNamara pulled away with his first loss at UAlbany. The Danes beat them by 10 points. The Saints, very defensive. They looked great. They did not get a lot of points in terms of scoring, and granted, neither did UAlbany, but we knew it was going to be a bloodbath.
Brendan Coyle from distance. Oh, yeah. Saints trail by just 1, 22-21. Second half, Siena trying to break through. Coyle again. Splash! Siena takes the lead, 45-44.
They did a lot of tugging the ball, pulling the ball, grabbing the ball, throwing the ball, rebounding the ball, airballing. At one point, UAlbany even showed an airball graphic when one of the Siena players airballed, which, in my opinion, was... Don't do that. Don't do that, seriously. All right, well, commentary aside, we need to get to our 5 key takeaways. Let's start off with Marcus Jackson. He is the first player to play at both schools. Supposedly both schools. We're not sure about that, but career high for Marcus Jackson. He didn't really do much in terms of scoring at UAlbany, but at Siena, he has been showing his shine, and definitely got to have a good look at Marcus Jackson for this one.
It was a not-so-warm welcome from Marcus Jackson Jr., the former Great Dane transferred to Siena in the offseason. Still, he's going to drain a 3 right here and finish with 17 points.
As far as UAlbany players go, I wanted to highlight Amari Marshall and Justin Neely, both players on the team that have been coming off of some injuries. Neely actually sat out for quite a few seasons due to his injuries, and look at him now. He's 21 points, 6 for 9 on the shooting, and 8 rebounds. And back to Marcus Jackson, because there's obviously more to the story here. Playing at your alma mater does mean you're going to have some pushback. There were a lot of heckles and boos towards Jackson at the game, as well as this interesting cardboard cutout of him, and this one of Gerry McNamara for some reason. Aside from that, Jackson also rolled his ankle towards the end of the game and came hobbling off the court. No word yet on Jackson's injury, and we'll know as Week 3 progresses. This was the second time the Albany Cup was played at UAlbany. UAlbany hosted it back in 2016 when it was called SCTV Arena, and after the renovations, Broadview Center, the new name for the arena, took over and hosted the Albany Cup. And I think that also added a factor into why UAlbany won the game, because you're playing in your home court, you know it very well, and you're going to be playing some unfamiliar people who have never played there before. But it was electric. There was a sellout crowd. They charged $60 for people coming in that were not UAlbany students. Not surprised. And I am just lucky enough that I got to sit where I was. I was literally right in back of the announcer guy on the floor level. And then eventually my friends Aiden and Femi joined me, and it was great just watching the game with them despite the fact that we lost. And yeah, that's a photo of Aiden pretty much summing up Siena's reaction to the whole thing. They also got me on the dance cam, and then they traded spots with another UAlbany student on the dance cam, and I got booed by the UAlbany people, of course. And for our final stat, Siena played a rematch also against Soli Adewale. Adewale, who is from England, played for Iona in his first season. He played for Tobin Anderson's first season and eventually ended up in the transfer portal along with everyone else at Iona and ended up at UAlbany. He didn't really have much of an impact during the game despite being part of the starting lineups.
It's Mac tonight. Come on, make it Mac tonight.
Alrighty, time for the MAAC report. We'll see how the MAAC's been doing in its second week. Starting things off with Ryder. Kevin Baggett, who's in his 13th year as head coach, has had an interesting start so far, and they're continuing their winning streak with Navy. They beat them by 11 points. The Manhattan Jaspers played a Division III school, the Mercy College Mavericks. Obviously a win there. It wasn't really by much, though, which kind of shows you how good Manhattan is, but they also pulled off a win against Fordham by 2 points. St. Peter's playing New Jersey rival Rutgers, losing by 10 points, and then going over to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, the Retrievers of UMBC, beating them and having their first win of the season. The Canisius Golden Griffins continuing their losing streak, unfortunately losing to Mercyhurst, which is just making the Division I transfer, as well as the SIUE Cougars. Not really looking like a hopeful season for Canisius. Fairfield, 2 wins. First they beat the New Hampshire Wildcats, and then played against John Jay, which is also not Division I. Seriously, I don't understand how they schedule these things. Obviously, the John Jay game was going to be a blowout for them. And Quinnipiac's only game of the week, Maine, Killian Gribben notably playing for them, former Siena player. They beat them by 3 points. Marist plays crosstown rival Army and beats them by 3 points. Close game between the Red Foxes and the Black Knights. Interesting color combo. Merrimack plays Ryan Odom and the VCU Rams and loses by 21 points. Should have known that was going to happen. Mount St. Mary's playing against Bucknell and getting a W there, and also a W against the St. Francis Red Flash, which used to be their Northeast Conference opponents. Niagara losing a game against the Detroit Titans by 6 points. Tobin Anderson and the Iona Gales losing against Delaware, and then picking up a 3-point win over Vermont. So, not a good start for a season for the Catamounts, which are pretty much the favorites in the America East every year. But, hey, at least Iona got a win finally. And Sacred Heart also kind of doing poorly, but getting a win against New Hampshire, 80-63, and the loss against Holy Cross. New Hampshire must be terrible. On the women's side, Ryder starts off their week with a game against Long Island and beating them by 12 points, and they also lost against Bryant. The Manhattan Jaspers also played LIU and beat them as well. Following that, St. Peter's losing to Fordham, 56-64. Not a surprise for St. Peter's because they're usually not good at women's basketball, looks like. Canisius playing St. Francis and getting 2 points over them. The Fairfield Stags losing to Richmond and also losing to OSU. So, unfortunately for Coach Carley, it has not been a good season for them so far in the non-conference slate. Quinnipiac, Trisha Fabry in her 30th season, getting a lot of surprises, beating Harvard and beating Princeton. So, they're not really good friends with the Ivy League, it's looking like. Marist takes care of Cornell and Lafayette. Merrimack takes care of New Hampshire and Bucknell, Mount St. Mary's losing to both FDU and Howard. Niagara, unfortunately, getting into some triple-digit trouble, losing to Penn State and Duquesne. Iona losing to both Navy and Rutgers. And Sacred Heart losing to both UAlbany and New Jersey Institute of Technology. Notably, Sacred Heart had the game against UAlbany moments before the Albany Cup was going on. Colleen Mullen and the Great Danes, of course, smoking them. For our next week's schedule, the Saints will be heading over to Cincinnati, Ohio to play the Xavier Musketeers. Sean Miller, the head coach of the Musketeers, recruited Reed Ducharme when he was a freshman, and he played his first 2 seasons there before becoming a freshman again and enrolling at Siena. Aside from Reed Ducharme, the Saints have played the Musketeers before, notably in 2019 in Carmen Massarella's first season, which was one of their very few losses. They lost 63-81. Gerry McNamara will have a very tough task playing against a Big East school, but as he's proven so far this season, there's nothing he can't do. So I'm excited to see if this will be a blowout or a neck-and-neck contest. Unfortunately, I won't be able to watch the game as I do not have a subscription to FS1, but you can still listen to the game on the radio. As for the women, they get 10 days off before heading over to Fordham University in New York City on November 23rd. This will be a homecoming of sorts for Billy Lovett, the assistant coach who graduated from Fordham in 1999. Lovett was recruited by Terry Primm to take over on the staff after Jim Jaber left. And so far, Lovett has proven that he is just as bombastic as Terry Primm on the court. The women are looking to improve. Thankfully, though, they have the wishes granted as Sapala will be back. And last season, they also won against Fordham in a game that notably had Valencia's season-ending injury. All right, to close off this video, want to wish a happy birthday to Jim Boeheim. The 47th season coach at Syracuse turned 80 years old on November 17th. Boeheim was the sire for Gerry McNamara during his first season as a freshman when they went to the national championship. McNamara continued to play for Boeheim and eventually was added to Boeheim's staff in 2009. And when Boeheim left in 2023, McNamara continued the staff tradition before going to Siena. Boeheim is also a AP Coach of the Year, Naismith College Coach of the Year, USA Basketball National Coach of the Year in 2001, and he is also a 4-time Big East Coach of the Year. And in 2022, he had his 1,000th win against Northeastern. While he may be retired, Boeheim is still very active in the sports world. He is a frequent analyst on ESPN during the college basketball season, and he also made the trip over to Albany to help Gerry McNamara at a panel discussion over at the Desmond. All right, well, that's a wrap, everybody. To close out the video, this is what happens when UAlbany scores a free throw.
Ready?